This is Ralph Luke, another feature gardener spotlight for Plants Not Buried. And we have a very special guest, the beautiful, young, talented social impact strategist for PowerPlay. Let everybody know who you are.
Hi, my name is Jonee Billy, and I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships and External Affairs at PowerPlay. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I've seen a lot of your videos and basically social media. You work with a lot of great athletes, both young and old. And you were even an athlete yourself. Like, why don't you talk about like describe your like how you got into basketball?
Yeah, it's funny. I got into basketball. Sad story. I got into basketball because I was tall. I was literally a 6-footer at 12. And everyone was, asking me consistently, like, hey, do you play? Do you play? Do you play? And, you eventually get tired of it. And so I was like, let me just go try it out, right? Let me see if I like this. And actually ended up falling in love with the community, with the basketball community. I fell in love with the game and continued to hone my skills. I ended up playing collegiately at Mount Holyoke College. Also went overseas, had a brief career in Europe. I played in Hungary. What else? My mom is Trinidadian, so I had an opportunity to play for the Trinidadian national team, which was exciting. And then I got an interesting opportunity actually came about, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the sport of netball.
I've kind of heard about that. I'm not so sure, but how does that sport work?
So it's essentially the original women's basketball. So think basketball without dribbling. And the court, there's 7 people on the court per team. The rules are a little bit more intricate, but it's basketball without dribbling. So I got to play for.
So you get away with traveling and that. So pretty much that's the only.
It's a passing game.
It's a passing game. No traveling. So pretty much no travel calls on that type of basketball, that type of sport. We need more sports like that.
I mean, they're stepping. So it's essentially if you do take the extra steps, but I think it's actually a great introductory game for teaching young people, young players, how to pass and move without the ball, court vision, these types of things. It actually would be really great before you introduce the sport of basketball to young kids. Keep that in mind. But yeah, so I played netball for like a year for Team USA. And now I'm a cyclist. So athletic genes run in my family, and I love playing sports, and I am now get the opportunity to support young people on their journeys in sport.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, giving back to your community. I mean, Plants Not Buried, we're all about outreach, networking, and pretty much everything that you just described. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Now, why don't you talk a little bit about like why you decided to become like an advocate and work in social impact?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about just the definition of social impact, right? It's making a difference. Who doesn't want to make a difference, right? And then when you think about social, it's also creating opportunities for those who are marginalized or like underprivileged. And I use the quote underprivileged in air quotes because I think if you swap out underprivileged with under-resourced, it becomes a much different conversation. And so in my current role as a strategic partner, I get the opportunity to work with these corporate companies who are looking to give back to under-resourced communities. And I get to really support them. So it's not, that it becomes something that is more intentional, that's something that is authentic, and more importantly, something that the community needs, right? So it's not, hey, show up, take a picture, look at us giving back, no. How can we make this more efficient? How can we make this something that's sustainable and really worthwhile for the community that you're giving back to? So that's kind of that's what inspires my journey. It's why I'm here. And yeah.
That's right. And you know what? I saw your interview like a month ago where you talked about like why is social impact so important, where you said something about like social impact is something that gets people around you better or something like that.
Yeah, you're uplifting a community. You're uplifting a community that needs resources. So for example, with us, at PowerPlay, I work with girls, right? And our mission is all about empowering girls through sports, helping them become stronger physically, emotionally, and academically, right? I think here in New York, it's an unfortunate stat that for some of our young people, they never leave an 8-block radius from where they live. So New York, yes, we're the mecca of basketball, but we are so fortunate because we have every sport team, every sport league is housed in New York, right? And while a young person may live in Brooklyn, they may never have visited Barclays Center. So how can I work with the CSR team, with the community relations team at Barclays to actually invite young people, their families, whomever, out to a game? It's a different level of exposure that then becomes more impactful. It's like, wait, this is something that's out there. And then we take it a step further and it's like, hey, let's do this career panel. Let's introduce you to other women in this field who make everything that you see on the court. They're the ones that are responsible, production, statisticians, whatever it is, right? Here are all these amazing women that are out here doing the work and making it happen. And now they start to see themselves in these spaces where they can now like, oh, that's something I can aspire to be.
Exactly. Women in sports is very important in all different categories, especially social impact and also, I mean, because I just did an interview earlier this week with Daniel McCartan, who's like a reporter for the FAN. She described everything about what makes women's sports so important. But in your mind, what makes women in sports so important? And I just got to ask you this because I know you're a woman that grew up playing basketball and nutball. Now you're activists, giving back to your community. So in your mind, why is women in sports important to you?
Women participating in sports is very important to me because of the lessons that you learn through sports, right? I talk about perseverance, I talk about teamwork, we talk about resilience, right? Do you know that there's a statistic out there that out of women that are in C-suite positions in corporate America, about 60% of them played some level of collegiate sports. It's just like the data, the statistics that really backs up that, when you go through sports, you are able to face and overcome any kind of adversity. And so we want our young people, and I keep using the word young people to be inclusive of gender expansive youth, so bear with me. But we want our young people to experience that. And hey, if you don't want to play, that's totally okay. But here are, let's still hone those skill sets so that it can make you a more successful human being, adult.
And when you're doing those youth community events, like recently when you had Monica McNutt and what do you teach these young children that are involved in the type of social impact that you're trying to create?
Yeah, so that was National Girls and Women in Sports Day. So we were fortunate that we were able to partner with the New York Knicks. And we went out to one of our partner schools in Queens, where they participated in a basketball clinic. So they're obviously learning the skills of sports, but then we're fortunate to have someone of Monica McNutt's stature, who is a former athlete, who is still a woman in sport, who can come back and speak to the young people and say, hey, and more importantly, speak to them on their level, right? Like, hey, do you play? What are some of the, when you talk about the skills that you use today? Oh, you were making passes? That's teamwork. How else can you apply teamwork in your day-to-day, in class, at home, and really make things relatable? It becomes a larger conversation, a really impactful conversation. And for us, that's the reward, right? Seeing young people be able to flourish and enjoy these experiences. It's rewarding.
Exactly. And obviously those kids get a chance to learn how to play basketball, even if they never had a basketball career growing up because they're just not talented enough, or there's just so limited spots to fill up. They can only give it to the one they feel that's best suited for it. You're teaching them basketball. You're teaching them how to play different variety of sports at many different levels. You're bringing in juggernauts like Monica McNutt so she can teach them some basketball. She can talk about social advocacy and how to give back to nonprofit organization. I mean, a lot of people don't really focus on that.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and being able to connect the dots and bring everything full circle is really important as well.
Exactly. Now, I want to get your thoughts like, how does your career in social advocates started?
In advocacy, I mentioned that I played basketball in Europe. And so I would come home in the summers and, just kind of like, okay, I'm here for 4 months. I'm training before I can head back overseas. Like, what's the one, what's the thing, a job, something just to keep me busy. And I started coaching in these like summer camps and things of that nature. And when my career came to an end unexpectedly due to injuries, it felt natural, not necessarily coaching, but just being around the larger nonprofit world. It was like, hey, this is something that I love. I think it combines multiple passions, which is the community building, the youth advocacy, the youth development, philanthropy, and obviously my love of sports. So being able to put all those things back together, for me, that's an ideal career option.
Exactly. It's because of those stuff you just mentioned that you managed to become a program director for New York Edge, and you were multi-site supervisor for St. Nicholas Alliance. Like, why don't you describe like the experience working at those type of jobs prior to PowerPlay?
Yeah. At which one was that? The first one was New York Edge. Working at New York Edge, I was in a school. So basically I ran after school programs for one of their sites in Brooklyn. I would talk more about the Cornerstone program because Cornerstones are essentially New York NYC community centers. I happened to work at one of the largest community centers here in New York, the Williamsburg Community Center, and they had an amazing facility. And just seeing, there's so, all this space, you're seeing a community that is primarily minority, very heavily Puerto Rican, and you're seeing all the needs that are there. Hey, we can use ESL language learning. How can we bring financial literacy? How can we support the young people? How do we support our teenagers? And so really just thinking about community development or on a larger scale than just after school. So it was almost like the next step in my career. I think also I learned that's where I started developing my partnership skills, because you had all these outside groups that were like, hey, I want to come use your facility. That's great. I'll allow you to use your facility, but you have to teach a community class to the members within this community, right? Because they're the ones who did the advocacy to create and to build this large community center and this space. And we want to make sure that it's still home to them first and foremost before we introduce it to a larger audience. So amazing experience there. I think I worked there for about 4 years, loved it. But then when the time was, the time came to move on to bigger and better, and I wanted to work on more in the partnership level and less in the programmatic level. And so I decided to move on to PowerPlay.
That's very nice to hear that. And then and all those partnerships led to you working for teams like the New York Liberty, who just picked up Brianna Jones, who just picked up Jocko Jones, Brianna Stewart, and Courtney Venesloo. But I already talked about that in my podcast. So
I am so excited to be a Liberty fan. Oh my God.
Why don't you talk, but I already ranted about that in my podcast, in my sports show. So let's just talk about like, when you thinking about partnerships, what is the first thing that you think about, especially with the New York Liberty?
With the Liberty, obviously, they are one of the few professional women's teams in the New York area, right? They're also very centrally located. They're obviously participating in a sport that I want to say most young people are familiar with, basketball, right? So first and foremost, it's always an opportunity. Hey, how can I bring my young people out to a game? That's the first thing. It's exposure, right? Let's introduce them to an atmosphere. Let's show them high-level basketball, because let's be real, these women can ball, right? And then we start talking other like sustainable programming, so longer term engagements. Hey, let's talk about coming out to our schools and doing something there. Let's talk about these career panels. Let's talk about other ways that we can have really influential conversations. So for example, next month, we're having a conversation with the New York Liberty on beauty standards in sports, because let's be real, there's so many barriers to women in sports. And I love that they're working with us to really address and to break down those barriers for the next generation of young girls that will be playing sports, hopefully for the liberty in the future.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, part of the reasons why teams come to Brooklyn, I mean, you're trying to impact your whole community and build partnerships with many different sports brands. I mean, you got the Connecticut Sun building the partnership with this women's shoe company, with this women's exclusive shoe company. I mean, the name's gonna come to me later in the show. The name is gonna come to me. I mean, I interviewed this former athlete who started her own shoe brand, which is literally only women's. Moolah Kicks, yeah. She created a partnership with Moolah Kicks, and there's so much to come with that. Like that kind of inspires me sometimes to create partnerships with other companies, so this way I can build the engagement that I need for not just playing to not bury, or nothing but sports, but just to build relationships. So this way you can get opportunities like what you have in the future right now. Like, why don't you describe the type of brand that PowerPlay is?
As a brand, I mean, we're pretty long-standing, right? We've been here for, we are approaching our 25th anniversary next year. So wow. We've been around for quite a bit. I think one of the things that makes PowerPlay very unique, first and foremost, we're single sex, right? So we work primarily with girls and gender expansive youth. So we've adjusted our language to go with the times as well, and to be inclusive, right? But it's, for me, I talk about what drove me to participate in sports was competition. However, we at PowerPlay, we're very conscious about creating inclusive spaces. So there are girls who are intimidated, who are scared to participate in gym class, who are so overcome by fear that they will never sign up for an after-school program. And so those are the types of young people that we tend to target, the outliers. Let's create this safe space. Let's draw you in with our social emotional learning curriculum that we adopted from the Women in Sports Foundation. And then we slowly introduce sports. So our goal we're not on an AAU track. We're not looking to churn out pro athletes. If it happens, great, that's amazing, right? But it's really expanding our reach and really, I don't want to say touching, that's the wrong word, and really impacting as many girls as we possibly can through our foundation and the way that we service and coach young people. So I'm super proud of that because I think just that uniqueness within the brand, I think it aligns with some other women in the corporate space, right? So not everyone played sports. Yes, there's a lot of them that played sports, but I think there are women who work for Deloitte. I'm just throwing out a random example, who may have been that young girl. And it's like, oh my God, you're doing this, you're creating space. It's almost like you're creating space for me back then, right? And so they're attracted to that. We're very much a niche type program. And so I think that's a huge part of our brand. When we start talking about our high school young people, it's really college and career readiness as well. But really focusing on the sports space, right? So, we've had women's panels with the New York Mets. We've had, these other women empowerment type themes with the Knicks and with BSE and all of these different teams. And so we're so grateful that all of these teams choose to partner with us. And I hope that they know that together we are having a large impact on young people in New York City.
Exactly, especially since we're Black History Month right now. Next month's about to be Women's History Month, and we're all about women empowerment. And while we're on the subject of talking about these type of months, like, why is the Black History Month and Women's History Month important to you?
Okay, wasn't expecting that one. It's fine. As a woman, as a Black woman, we understand the challenges that we face in the world, right? And so I think an opportunity or a month, first of all, I celebrate myself every month, so I don't wait for a Black History Month to celebrate my Blackness, and I definitely don't wait until Women's History Month to celebrate my womanhood. However, being able to really
but those months is where you get recognition for all the hard work you do in your industry or some of the important months.
I understand that, and we are appreciative of those months and to really be able to hone in on those things. But it's Black History Month over here, 365 days a year. Understand that, right? But I think around this time we do tend to get a lot more partnerships with people really looking to focus on girls. So they, they'll reach out, hey, I really want to do something in Women's History Month, or I really want to do something in Black History Month. And, we love that, but we want it all year round.
Exactly. And it's because, it's because of that mentality that when you're doing these type of PowerPlay NYC youth community events, you may bring in recently acquired Jonee Jones to talk to these young athletes, to give her perspective on basketball and being a community and being an individual impacting your own community in youth and women's basketball. Like, why don't you talk about our experience watching Jonee Jones inspire the young generation?
First of all, shout out to the Caribbean, because I'm West Indian too. So, her coming back coming to the Liberty, and being able to cheer on one of my fellow West Indians is amazing. She's such an amazing athlete.
I got a photo with her yesterday, earlier this week.
Did you? Oh my God, that's awesome. No, but I mean, like,
stop. You've seen it.
I mean, bringing that level of talent, man. I mean, what is she, 6'6" at this point?
I think she's 6'6". She's definitely taller than me. I'm 6'1".
I'm 6'1.5", right? It's 6'2" on a good day. And in college, I mean, I played a 4. Do you understand that a 4 now is like 6'4"? And, the skill level of someone of her, her stature, even with Breanna Stewart coming, like, these women are so skilled, so dope. And I love that they're not scared to reach back and to have conversations and to, like, hey, let's chop it up, really, because I want you to be the next generation, because they understand that the Cynthia Coopers and the Lisa Leslies, they all paved the way for them to be here. So it's cyclical, right? They opened the door for me, and it's now time for them to open the door for the next generation. So I love how unselfish they are and how open they are to community development. Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. Now, I mean, I know you probably already, I'm sorry if you already answered this, but why don't you talk about like how you are making a positive impact your community, and any events and products that you'd like to share during your involvement with PowerPlay?
I think one of my favorites would obviously be, okay, so under my portfolio at PowerPlay, I manage a coalition of 10 nonprofits called Star CGI. Collectively, we have a reach of about 6,000 girls and gender nonconforming youth in New York. We serve that each year. And 4 years ago, we actually approached Nike about doing an event. We wanted to do some sort of an expo theme style event.
Recently.
We approached them about doing an expo style themed event, and we were going to call it Self-Care Saturday, right? And we launched that, I want to say, in March 2020. And we're so grateful to Nike, because, I mean, it's powered, essentially funded by Nike, because there's no way we would be able to really amplify it and do all that awesomeness without their support. But I think what's really amazing about this experience is that we launched this in 2020. So we were having a conversation around mental health and self-care, and, because it's such a trendy word now, right? And we were holding space for young people to educate them and give them the resources, more importantly, to engage in self-care practices. And then COVID comes, and it's like, I needed these resources. And luckily, Nike was able to really allow us and support us in being able to continue that in a virtual way, in a virtual capacity, essentially building out like a whole website, interactive website. And we shipped swagged items to the young people so they continue their self-care work. But really excited because coming up next month, we're doing self-care celebration, expanding it from a one-day event because we want to spread the message that, hey, self-care is not just Saturday, self-care is every day, right? Self-care in every day and every way. So we're doing 4 days of self-care practices with Nike coming up in March that we're super excited about. And I mean, our young people live for this. So that's one of my proudest, I would say, achievements, and one of the things I really look forward to each year.
Exactly. The fact that you're getting involved with Nike, building all these other partnerships, especially with all these sports teams, that's what makes your career flawless. Which leads to this one question, like throughout your, like, how impressive you of your own career as a social and community impact advocate?
Impressed. I'm happy. I'm happy with my journey, but I'm in no way, shape, or form. I'm not content yet because I have goals, I have dreams. There's so much I want to be able to accomplish. So I haven't even began to scratch the surface of what I want to do and the impact that I want to leave on this world. So I'm happy. I'm grateful. I am so filled with gratitude for all the lives of the young people that I've been able to make an impression upon. But yeah, we're working, and it's not me, it's a team, it's everyone else that I partner with and work with to do this work. So yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? While we're continuing talking about is there any future plans that you have for PowerPlay coming up other than the ones you just mentioned, especially with the New York Liberty? Because there are certain theme nights that could be coming up.
I don't know if I'm allowed to tell. We do have some things we do have some things in the works with the Liberty.
Fine. I mean, it was
I mean, last year we were able to be a part of their unity game. That's one of the things that actually the Nets do. But they work very closely. Their social impact teams work very closely. And so we're really excited to be a part of their women's empowerment unity night as well for the Brooklyn Nets. But as the Liberty season comes on the way, I am excited, so excited to take young people to games and to really celebrate these women on the court, because oh my God, it's gonna be a movie.
Exactly. They have 11 o'clock games for New York Liberty during the season, right?
They have what?
They have 11 o'clock games, so it's kind of good. It's kind of good that you creating all these opportunities for younger girls to go check out a game.
Yeah.
Around 11 o'clock in the morning, even I mean, and obviously the level of competition is there. You got Moonlight Kicks collaborating with Connecticut Sun, like I said, and then also you have Grow Our Game. I believe. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll go to the 11 o'clock games, we'll go to the night games, run us the tickets. We will be there and we will be cheering on the Liberty, all of them, because the squad is deep. I don't know if I'm proclaiming that we're taking the chip this year. So let's
go. I'm proclaiming it too.
I hear that. I am excited for this season.
But to wrap up this episode, what was your favorite parts about networking outreach?
I'm a networker at heart. I don't think I've ever really stopped. I belong to several, networks within the sports space. I am on WISE, which is Women in Sports and Events. And I always talk about, I would love to say that I I got here on my own efforts, right? And I pulled myself up by the bootstraps, but that's not the reality. The reality is that there are so many other people and women and everyone that have opened doors for me. And so it's only right that I continue to open a door for others. I'm not scared of no. You don't receive an answer. You will never get a yes if you never ask the question, right? So I'll take as many no's as possible, but I will make the ask. And we're coming, and if you want to get down, you want to partner with us, you want to have a positive impact on young people's lives, especially if you're in the sports sector, sports space, holla at me. I am so down to collaborate.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not collaborating with plans that I have with you on the air, but I will wrap up this Planted Not Buried feature Gardner segment. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope and you can expect a little article talking about your journey. We like talking about your journey. I got an additional question
Mhm.
like what inspires you to be the person that you are today? If you haven't answered that already.
What inspires me is I love seeing the joy that young people get when they score their first basket, when they score their first soccer goal. I love seeing them experience new things for the first time. And so to be a part of that is amazing. I talk about one of the things that I loved in basketball when I first got into playing was the community. The community makes or breaks whether someone stays in the sport, especially for girls. And so my goal is always to create an inclusive space where everyone feels welcomed and everyone leaves feeling inspired and it was worthwhile. And so that's my inspiration. I get to connect with young people. They keep me young at heart. I love Gen Z. And yeah, that's it.
That's what it's all about. I mean, it's good that you have something that inspires you to keep going as a community activist. Well, obviously, I have a lot of obviously we have a lot of growth and development to do as far as the career goals that we have right now, or to reach our career goals. But you know what? It's all good. That's how it is.
We'll get there slowly but surely. We're getting there on the right timing, divine timing, right?
And this is the end of your Future Gardner Spotlight. Thank you for stopping by,
Jonee.
Jonee Billy. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.